How we doing, boys and girls? Good morning. Welcome in, welcome in. This is not going to be the most action-packed stream today. I think we might have just had what could potentially be the final alpha build. It dropped last night. I spotted some info about it. I've been poking around, and it does appear that we now have some of the recipes or the endgame crafting stuff. It all now properly shows. Meaning there's probably a lot of other things to find out, a lot of other things to explore. Some patch notes to probably pay attention to. Expansion done, then ship it. Well, this does also mean that beta could be literally right round the corner. We are probably going to roll straight into beta. In fact, talking of such, I actually think if you look at the where's it gone? The Build Watcher channel, mainline beta updated 8 hours ago, which is a strong indication that they are almost ready to push forward. Almost ready to push forward with a beta. I wasn't actually going to stream today, simply because I took a bit of a day off yesterday to get a few things done. Some progress has been made. But today's mostly going to be me just tinkering with professions, and more than anything else, making sure that my basic info over on Discord is up to speed. I'm a little bit slacking. With some of the professions in terms of like basic info. So I need to get some screenshots down. I need to get some details put together for those. That's the plan. And of course, if you guys are willing to chill with me whilst we do it, then all the better. So yeah, I've got some stuff up and running already. I just need to finish the others. You know, we've got a bit of information on some of the professions here. Blacksmithing is the one I'm doing now. Do still have a beta client, but it's not visible in BattleNet, and the client gets updated each time when the alpha does. Yeah, it's entirely possible for anybody to have the client. What you probably may or may not have, though, is an account that is flagged with access to it. Which means, yes, people have been able to download them and see when things update and stuff. But if your account's not flagged, then you're not allowed in. Is the final alpha build already up? Well, it definitely looks different. There are differences to what I saw yesterday. All of the endgame recipes seem to be populated now. Whereas these haven't been previously. So I would assume that this turned up in the last build. These weren't all visible yesterday. Now they are. They're also looking as if they have the correct tooltips now, which were also broken previously. 246 looks to be the base item level. Yeah, it's looking like all of the final crafting stuff has been put in. Now, what I don't know is if this has come with any changes to anything else. So I'm gonna have to spend a little bit of time this morning, first thing, going through patch notes and stuff. MMO Champion has already data mined a bunch of stuff. So we can filter through this. Build 2064-124 has been deployed on Alpha Realms. This happened 8 hours ago or something. Not ready for the beta. Arc Raiders is launching tomorrow. Oh, is that when it's actually launching, is it? It's a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot going on. Obviously with all Battlefield stuff going on as well. Have you noticed any significant changes to the required material amounts? I've not noticed anything yet because I've not looked. That's the plan for today. The plan is to poke around, have a little look, do maybe a bit of comparison to previous notes, and see what's going on. That's the plan for today, at least. It's difficult to say significant material requirement changes because we couldn't see the material requirements last time. So I don't know whether they were data mined or on Wowhead or whatever, but they weren't in the actual game to see. Yeah, I've got to look at stuff before I can draw conclusions first. In good time. In good time. But let's see what was added. We can see exactly all of everything that was added to this build in terms of items. There's only a couple of pages, so I don't imagine that it's too much. Some junk items, some trinkets. Junk items, trinkets. Oh, okay. Cooking's been added. By the looks of things. No, this isn't cook. These are food and drink items. Maybe this is the start of cooking. Maybe these are vendor bought items. Maybe they're vendor bought items. Cosmetic staff. You are now better, faster, stronger, increasing all stats by 10% in your next delve. Bunch of cosmetics being thrown in. Sure, we'll find the source of those at some point. Finery funds. Bind to battle.net account. Warband. Can be exchanged at Silver Moon Finery for an outfit of your choice. Interesting. A new battle pet was added. Black Baby Hawk Strider. And a jellyfish. Brano Vision 3000. It's Delvin time. A new toy. Ensembles. Another companion. Some decor items were added as well. Bunch more decor items. Okay, there wasn't many actual items added in this build. One thing I did notice though, it might have been added in a previous build, but we maybe weren't able to easily see it before, is that a lot of the endgame weapons, and these are used across many professions, tormented tantalum. I have not seen these before. I've not stumbled across these before. I don't know where these come from. A dense alloy rendered from tormented souls can be bought and sold on the auction house. There's a possibility these come from delves. There's a possibility these drop from the raid. But it's a crafted reagent. I have not found the location of these yet, but they are not only used in blacksmithing weapons, they're also, from what I can gather, quite widely used in other professions as well. So I need to find them. Yeah, it's a reagent for 63 different crafted items, so nearly any endgame crafted something or other is going to potentially use these. So these are going to become an important material real quickly. Midnight tailoring, leatherworking, blacksmithing, jewel crafting within the amulet and the bands. Yeah, these become very important to find where they come from. Very important very quickly to find where these come from. Delves would be a good guess, but it could also be a raid boss drop. But the tooltip doesn't really give us much of a heads up to what they are. That's something to find today, or try and figure out at the very least. Any significant changes to any of the profession gear? This is still clearly not right. Not all changes are finalized though. Oh, okay. Some of the profession gear does actually look to be better implemented now. Well, it's level 81 plus 11 to midnight leatherworking. So the accessories are giving plus 11. Plus 11 skill on the accessories. Okay, well they haven't been fixed, have they? Because they're still saying Kazalgar blacksmithing. Oh, plus 11. Okay, if we compare two toolboxes then, you've got plus 38 and 11 skill, or the better one, plus 52 and 11 skill. So there's no skill increase. Could be a new null stone. There is a new, this dazzling thorium is basically a null stone. It, you know, shows itself as an ore, but it's basically the null stone. Acts in the same way. Is farmed very, very, very rarely whilst herbing and mining. Although you can spec into finding and be better at them. But yeah, dazzling thorium's the new null stone. And then the green one, if we just look for toolbox. The basic one hasn't had its tooltip updated. It says only plus 5. Plus 5 to 11 to 11. Should we assume that that's meant to say midnight blacksmithing? But 24 stats up to 38 for the rare ones. Obviously the difference here being is the uncommon green ones are bind on equip. These go to be bind on pickup straight away. So work order / personal craft. Then the epic ones are also bind on pickup. It does make me wonder, why would you just don't need the rare versions? Because it's one of those where you are just categorically making the wrong choice by picking the rare one. I'd also say this is also clearly not finalized yet because they're using the same materials. Look, they're using the same materials but have substantially higher recipe difficulties on the epic ones. Maybe that is just simply it. Maybe this recipe difficulty is designed to be so flipping high, you're unlikely to be able to get these at top quality anytime soon, or even at all. Maybe the design is meant to be that you are not meant to be able to get these epic ones without the use of concentration. Meaning not only would you have to find somebody who will be able to craft it for you, you will also have to pay them handsomely for the use of their concentration on crafting the epic one. So maybe that's your... Maybe you have the option of... I mean, it's still the wrong option because of how min-maxy professions get. It's still the wrong option to go with the rare one. But is it one of those you get the best you can get? You get the best that you can afford, at least in Season 1, until eventually the reality is that if you don't have the epic ones, you're just going to be missing so many stats. Your crafting costs are just going to be worse than everybody else's. Depends on when the epic one will be available. Do we know if the recipe for them can be acquired right away? Yeah, the recipes for these are often found from the blacksmithing supply event or the profession supply vendors. This time, the supply vendors are housing most of the recipes you might need, and it's where you trade in your moxie. So you'll see the Sunforged blacksmith hammer, Sunforged leatherworker's knife. You can see all the recipes can be purchased here straight away. And actually, the rare versions often come through the spec trees. We've got trade tools. Learn to craft the Sunblessed blacksmithing hammer. Consume 5 less concentration when crafting tools. That's a capstone node. Why would you make it a capstone node if you could ever get to the point where you didn't need concentration? Because surely by the time you're hitting capstone nodes, you should have everything available to you, right? A midnight profession requirement is going to be 81 instead of 80. Or actually, you can learn the profession from 78. But obviously, the use of crafted items can vary all the way up until max level. This sort of leads me more into the understanding that maybe you're not ever creating the epic ones without concentration, which would very much limit the supply of them early. So it will be a like, he who pays the premium, he who pays the most gets the epic one. Is it the same in the trade accessories? Gain the ability to use finishing reagents. Skill, 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 skill. 5 less concentration. Really am starting to think that there's going to be a lot of crafts, or should I say, some crafts that you will be able to guarantee, and then some crafts that will require concentration. And it's looking maybe like the epic. Looking very much like the epic profession tools and accessories will require concentration to craft them at max quality. Otherwise, what's the point of giving people the advantage of 5 less concentration at the top end? Now, five less isn't going to be that impactful if you still need 100 concentration per craft, for example. But if you only need like 15 concentration per craft, then 5 less is quite the saving, isn't it? But it's difficult if you have 1,000 of it in the first place. I wonder if that value is still to be balanced, maybe. You gain all of your skill. Well, let's do some napkin maths. We can do napkin maths. We have a rough understanding of what this is giving us. If the accessories are giving 11, how many are we looking at? 11 times 2 is 22. 22 plus 18 was 40 again, isn't it? It's exactly the same amount of stats as what we've seen before. So let's assume that there's 100. The 100 plus 40 build is your basic anyway. So if we were trying to make one of these at top quality, we need 655 skill from flipping somewhere. Elon, my man, thank you very much for the sub. Appreciate the lurk as well. Good morning to you. Welcome in. How much skill do we reckon we can get our hands on? So all quality 2 materials, which actually for reference is only the sterling alloy, that's the only thing in this list that has quality. That's going to give us 40% of that value to begin with. We're going to get 262 skill just from having quality 2 alloys, plus 140 for max up here. That's only 402 skill. That means you are in miles away from 655. Miles away from 655. $253 skill away from being able to produce one of these at top quality. I do not think your spec trees are going to give you 250 plus points. So you've got 30 points in here. Improve your ability to support your fellow crafters with high quality tools, accessories and stones. Plus 1 skill when making items that enhance professions. So you got what, 30 points there? Plus any bonuses that you get from here. 35, 45, 55. Okay, so 55 points from this node. Minus 55. So we're still missing 198. It's either a tool or an accessory. And the skill that you gain from these nodes are specific to accessories or tools. So you don't get to count both of these, it's only either or. So 2 times 25 is another 50, plus any bonuses, because it's 2 points per. So what did I say? 50, 60, 70, 85, 100, 100. So you're still 98 skill away. Unless there's something else lurking in the spec trees somewhere that gives you that final 100, which I don't think there is, it very much looks like you will never be able to craft the epic ones at max quality without the use of concentration. You will always be in the ballpark of 100 skill away. And by being 100 skill away, we can assume that 100 skill is going to require you to have quite the concentration thrown at it. And now that is assuming that you as a crafter are already min-maxed. That's a best case scenario, you're 100 skill away. Well, that at least creates some difference for me between the epic ones and the rare ones. But 480 should be able to be guaranteed without the use of concentration, assuming you're tippity top everywhere else. Is it only 2 qualities of the profession equipment? No. Although hovering over this doesn't show the break points for the others. That's probably because these are unlearned recipes. No, okay, hovering over these doesn't even work. Which is not helpful in answering that question at all, is it? Yeah, this doesn't seem to work anywhere. Yeah, I can't answer that question definitively. Although, with the current recipe, hang on, we can math this out. With the current recipe difficulty, reach skill 96 to guarantee quality 2. If the first breakpoint is at 90, yeah, it still looks like there's 5 ranks. Still looks like there's 5 ranks. If you only need 96 skill to reach quality 2, then let's assume it's 100-ish skill for each rank thereof. So yeah, it still looks like there's 5 ranks. That doesn't look like it's changed. Napkin math. 131 times 5 is about 655, yeah. But yeah, still probably 5 ranks. Doesn't look like they've changed any of that. That feels like that's the difference then. They've added the epic ones. Now, let's assume materials are still, you know, being balanced. I'm going to assume materials still need to be balanced for all of this stuff. But my assumption is that the epic ones will never be able to be guaranteed at quality 5 without concentration. Napkin maths would indicate that crafters might be able to guarantee them at quality 4 without concentration. But if you want them at quality 5, you're going to have to find a blacksmith and you're going to have to buy, or you're going to have to find a crafter and you're going to have to buy their concentration off them. We're looking at an old army concentration expansion again. Yes. Yes. It's only alpha, they'll change it. I think they can't make it work that you need concentration as a master crafter. That would suck. Well, why not? Otherwise, what's the point? Otherwise, what's the point of having uncommon, rare, and epic? If quality 5 exists, who wants quality 4? Nobody. Well, that same logic applies to who in their right mind then wants the rare ones? Nobody. When the epic ones have more stats on them. That a quality 4 epic one still is going to offer you more stats than the quality 5 rare one. There has to be something in the system that justifies there being epic ones, and them either being more expensive, either in terms of material cost or in terms of having to pay the crafter for their concentration. Something needs to exist to justify their existence. And at least for season 1, it will limit the amount that a crafter can craft of these tools for other crafters. Bind on pickup, aren't they? Yes, yeah. This is all, you know, either craft it for yourself or via work orders, yeah. Maybe the previous quality tool or items will be needed for the next rank to be crafted. Unlikely, because you're not crafting them, are you? You're putting work orders in for them. It's just simply, you know, a skill thing. The return on a crafting tool at max rank is so damn high, there is no price that is not worth paying, to be honest, since you'll get at least 12 months out of it. We know this. We know this. But what is also very clear is that it's difficult. It's difficult because it's a trap. It's a noob trap, isn't it? We know this. We know that, like, there comes a point where if you are not min-maxed, your crafting cost is worse than somebody else's. And if your crafting cost is worse than somebody else's, you're likely to find the profit margin will not be in your favor. We know that. We've seen how that happens. it does not take very long for that to happen. But it's a bit of a noob trap having intermediate profession tools that still cost something to make, that even if you craft them, you're kind of you're kind of wasting your gold on making these. That's a good point though. No moxie is needed in crafting any of these so far, from what I can see. Moxie is not actually used to craft anything for blacksmithing. I think it is only used to... Moxie is, so far at least, only used to buy recipes. It does say crafting midnight blacksmithing profession tools and accessories though in the tooltip. Now I don't know if this means that the tooltip was wrote before that was decided, or whether that tooltip was just copy pasted. Oh, I don't know. It probably isn't copy pasted, is it? Because they're new items. But it could also mean that Moxie will be added onto the profession gear. That could also be somewhere else that they add value to the epic stuff. In terms of that, if this ends up costing a ludicrous amount of Moxie, you might not be able to get a full set of epics with the amount of Moxie that you're able to obtain. Meaning that your next best solution is the rare stuff. And it's a stopgap, it's a stepping stone to an eventual, by the time you have enough Moxie, getting epics no, let's say it's 150 Moxie. Was it 150 Moxie? No, it was 300 Artisan Security, wasn't it, for a single profession tool? It could be the same again. It could be that they end up putting 300 Moxie on each one of these, on the epic ones, you know, and you may not necessarily be able to get 900 Moxie too quickly without, you know, shuffle shenanigans we've seen before. So maybe that's it. Maybe this is that. Maybe they are fundamentally designed to be a stopgap middle, you know, the best you can possibly get until you have the resources to get the best you can possibly get. It's still a little bit guesswork, but the napkin maths seem to indicate that concentration will be needed to craft the epic ones. I imagine Moxie will probably also be added to the epic ones. Epics won't make too much of a difference in the first couple of weeks, in my opinion. The profit margin will be too big to care about some extra percentage multi-craft resourcefulness, etc. But with time, the difference will be the money maker. Yeah, the amount of time that it takes for the markets to squeeze is actually, considering this is now going to be the third time we have this profession system, it will happen fast. It will happen very fast. Faster than we've ever seen it before, because now people have played with this system twice over. They know how it works. They understand, you know, they've had 2 expansions to learn and understand that your resourcefulness, your ingenuity, your multi-craft matters. Sure, profit margins are usually at their best in the first season, but that's still not a guarantee that you can, you know, cut corners. It still means you'll be outdone by the person that doesn't cut corners. That's the reality. You might have margin. You might be able to make a margin without the epics, but the person who has the epics will be making more margin. And more importantly, that will give them more flexibility to tank the price, you know, to a point where you lose and they still win. And that's just how the market plays out. For enchanting, it was 400 for the epic and then 300 for the rare, but that could be changed if epic is double or more the value of the blue gear. Yeah, true. Yeah, they could put Moxie on the rare and the epic stuff, but it would make a lot more sense for them to put like a big 300, 400 Moxie requirement. Because let's not forget, Moxie is going to be more difficult to come by this time. because there's no shuffle, because it's, what's the right word? Profession, just profession specific, right? You will have only so much of this that you can obtain. Now everybody else will be in the same boat, but it will mean that the optimization of your Moxie won't be a case of shuffling professions, but it'll be maybe even more important to get your first time crafts done, to farm up your treasures, to keep on top of your knowledge points, with significantly more focus, because you don't have that, oh, I'll just go do some herbing and mining for an afternoon first, you know. Impress, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for the lurk. Thank you, thank you. Oh, new puppy season. Brother and mum might have a new puppy this Sunday, a Swiss Shepherd. Ooh. Love me puppy season. Where is my puppy? Down here, she's chilling. Those watching on mobile, you have permanent puppy cam. Alternatively, she's flopped. She's flopped. She's snoozing. I started the stream late today because she took flipping forever to relax. Chilling. Maximum chilling, yeah. Multiple dog beds. Nobody sleeping in them. Although that's a bit of a lie. That's a bit of a lie. Nips was sleeping in the dog bed. Nips was in this one. Oh, you can't see, my ass is in the way. He's asleep in that one. So at least there's one dog in a dog bed. One dog in a dog bed. It's always fun with the people 2 weeks into the expansion coming in and asking, is it too late to make gold with professions? Yeah. Yeah, that does make me giggle. Mine was with when I bought anything for my cat, the box was always more... Yeah, absolutely. Same with dogs. Yeah. The box the thing comes in is far more interesting than whatever the thing is, yeah. Okay. I need to spend putting a few thoughts together, padding out the blacksmithing notes here a little bit. Oh, somebody found what this is for. Elemental Souls flashback from Dragonflight. Yeah, hopefully not. Yeah, we need to find this, boys and girls. If anybody has access to the alpha and is poking around and trying to find things, this tormented tantalum is important to find because it's used in a lot of endgame crafted recipes. No shot collars? No. Not a shot collar in sight, my friend. We do things old school. We do things properly around here. Right, I need to start writing up some notes for this then. Let's start with materials. I'm out of coffee, which is not a good start today. Blacksmith's materials is pretty heavily focused on the 3 ores. So we have umbral tin. Well, copper ore goes into making copper ingots. We then have 2 different alloys to play with. Did you see the Hassan dog? Yeah, that's what they're referencing, yeah. Copper ingots are crafted with copper ore. Then umbral tin and brilliant silver ore are used in their raw form to make both sterling... Oh, they still can't decide on the name of this. Is it sterling alloy or is it dazzling alloy? They still haven't decided. Either way, it goes into making 2 separate alloys. But fundamentally, it's vendor mats and basic ore. Vendor mats and basic ore is going to be the core things to pay attention to. Do I have access to the warbank here? Give me warbank access. I don't know where the warbank is. Where is the bank? Let me go and find it, actually. What's the Artisan's Acuity of Midnight? It's called Moxie. And it's profession specific this time. Designed to limit the shuffle, basically. Because clearly they weren't a fan of the shuffle.
We will persevere.
Right, so some copper ore, some umbral tin ore, and some brilliant silver ore are what we care about. That goes into making copper ingots. What's the exploit going to be to get around that? Well, yeah, here's to hoping that there isn't one, but no. Blizzard do Blizzard things. Luminant Flux is our vendor bought reagent that goes into a bunch of things. Are there any more vitally important materials that blacksmiths are going to rely on? When we get into the actual endgame, okay, Dazzling Thorium is going to be useful, but it acts like a null stone. That's at least worth paying attention to. Do I have any of them? I might not even have any of them. No, I don't even have any of them to show.
The reckoning is at hand.
Some dusk shrouded stone. This is made, but this is your standard prospecting stone. Some of that is needed. Other than that, it's just stuff that goes into end crafts. Okay, it's definitely worth mentioning that the epic hides, epic skinning mats are used quite a lot. Also, miners, herb gatherers can't convert rank 1 mats into rank 2. Correct, yes. Does that mean that the rank 2 to rank 1 price ratio has the potential to be more than 5 times this time? The potential is there. From some early herbing and mining, you do have to do quite a bit before you start seeing high quality mats. This is obviously all open to balancing still. But you had to get over 120 skill before you started seeing high quality mats, and even then, like, I haven't found. Well, for starters, I've not really put much time or effort into herbing and mining on the alpha because that's kind of crazy talk. But I've very rarely found high quality ores whilst out herbing and mining. But I only just have my herb and miner character to the point where they can actually find them. A couple of weeks into the expansion, these might not be that rare. There's a lot that balances on the rarity of the high quality mats. If the high quality mats end up being too easy to get, it will nuke everything into the ground. Don't you get unlimited mats so you can test properly in the alpha? Not yet. No, they didn't put the cheat vendors in for alpha, which was kind of annoying because it has made most of the professions look but don't touch, really. the only progress I've made with any of the professions is because I've farmed the materials myself, which is kind of crazy. But I'm pretty sure in the next week to 10 days we're going to roll into beta anyway. So then it will be open season for testing. Hope the rank 2 mats become 10 times the price of a rank 1 then, because concentrate. Well, yeah, it's concentration alt armies are clearly going to want high quality materials to be as rare as possible. But we'll have to see, won't we? Even high quality mats still, in some cases, I mean, high quality materials will give you, if you use all high quality materials, it's worth 40% of the recipe difficulty. So you're still going to have to find 60% to be able to actually craft things at high quality without using concentration. I'm 50-50 at the moment what the design goal is. It looks to me like the design goal for a lot of stuff is that basic things you probably should be able to get the skill to mass produce them at high quality. As we were talking earlier about things like the high-end stuff. High-end stuff is giving me the impression that you might not craft it at top quality without concentration. We're seeing high enough recipe difficulties that players might struggle to reach the breakpoints to guarantee top quality stuff. 490s of... See, 490 is such an odd number, it makes me feel like it's been balanced already. But then you've randomly got one recipe at 500, or 450, or 500 again. Anyway, I think some things are going to be able to be guaranteed at top quality if you use high quality materials all throughout. But I'm not convinced everything will be. And I think profession tools and accessories is one area where concentration will be needed. Or at least appears that way. PvP stuff looks to be a bit simpler. Any tinderbox candidates? Yeah, this thing. Fermented tantalum is a tinderbox candidate. I don't know where this comes from. I mean, estimated release date is end of February. End of February, early March. For midnight. It's not that long away now. Okay. I've wrote 2 words. I need to... I go craft up a couple of these alloys just for the purpose of the screenshot. Maybe finishing reagents will help us reach the goal. Anything new in those? I've actually seen a surprisingly few amount of that sort of stuff. There seems to be very little to do with that. There's the indication that finishing reagents, yes, are a thing. On a lot of crap, they're like the box is here for them to be used. Actually finding who crafts them and where they come from, though, is another thing. Off the top of my head, I genuinely cannot think which profession even crafts any of the finishing reagents, making me feel that they might not be implemented yet. They are spoke about and they're all over the spec trees. So if they're not here yet, they're clearly coming. But I can't tell you much about them because I don't know a lot about them. Let me put it this way: neither blacksmithing or enchanting make any finishing reagents. It might just be a couple of very specific. It might just be like inscription or something that ends up making all of them or something. I don't know. I can't remember. I've not looked at inscription in much detail, other than thinking that Dark Moon cards could be a thing again. Like properly. I mean, not like these stupid 10 a penny vendor trash Dark Moon cards. Oh, I don't really have a lot of materials here, full stop, do I? What? Oh, we're on the wrong side. Like, where's my anvil gone? Dazzling alloys come from silver, which actually the tooltip also says sterling alloy. Uh, 5 Moxie on first time crafts seems to be a thing again, by the way. I know the amount of Moxie was heavily controlled in both Dragonflight and the War Within on first time crafts, but at least initially it seems to be on most recipes. Whether it gets taken out again to strangle the amount of this that's available or not, we'll have to see. Probably not so necessary to strangle the amount of this though without shuffle being a thing. Got to jump out. It's my birthday today. Ah, happy birthday. Congratulations. Rats on ding. No, enjoy. Don't sit around. You got birthdays to do. Go enjoy yourself. Thanks for stopping by. What I like doing actually, for the purpose of the little mini Discord guides, is mini videos. Let's hope these don't die. Oh, I've just realised with streaming as well, are these going to have like flipping music playing? Oh, they do. They have the music on them. Alright, well, whatever. For Discord, it's fine. It just means I can't share those out anywhere else. Good old copyright. Oh, okay. That's also going to cause havoc with my YouTube recording. Oh. Blacksmiths. Blacksmiths are going to be heavy consumers of all variations of midnight ore. Copper, ore, is converted into copper bars. Which then are combined with silver or tin to make the higher grade alloys. Was there any reason to push infinite power in Remix? To get strong. I don't know what you would define as reason. There's a feat of strength for hitting 999 ranks of Unlimited Unbound, if that's what you're after. But the ultimate reason is, yeah, just to get strong. More power, bigger numbers, yeah. Depends what your definition of reason is. Blacksmiths are going to be heavy consumers of all variations of midnight ore. Copper ore is converted into copper bars, which are combined with silver or tin to make the higher grade alloys. What's our vendor reagent called this time? Luminant flux. Luminant flux is our what other materials become vitally important? Sindori armor bandings. These are leatherworking, aren't they? To level the Conk army faster. That's it. That's a yeah. That's well related. More power equals solo the raids, so you can actually keep up. Maybe even see some of the raids, not just a trail of dead mobs. Yeah, cries in Death Knight. But even Death Knights can probably keep up these days. This tormented thing requires mentioning. Definitely requires a mention. Tormented tantalum is currently unknown. It is used in most end game crafts. This has strong tinderbox vibes to me. Real strong tinderbox vibes. I don't know what the actual outcome of this will end up being. I need to, people need to poke around a little bit and find this from somewhere. Anybody that has been testing delves on the alpha maybe might have come across some. It could be a delve mat, but it could also drop from raid bosses or something and be, almost impossible to find on the alpha or even on the beta. It might be difficult. We'll have to find out, but it's an important material all the same. I haven't spoke much about Spark of Beginnings anywhere, really. These are interesting. Spark of Beginnings are interesting. Who made these? Was it Scribes? Shit, I can't remember. Was it Scribes who made these? Or engineers? Engineers make the Spark of Beginnings, yeah. Did I write anything about these in the little engineering overview? Oh, it did, look. It did, in the engineering section. One of the more interesting additions for engineering is Baby Sparks, or the Spark of Beginnings for the actual item name. These are war-bound, mini craftable sparks. They look to be balanced at fresh level 90 kind of item levels. Could be a good way to quickly start gearing an alt, or for goblins as a way to craft some spark crafts to help push that 100 profession skill. Bind to Warband, so aren't purchasable, but they are craftable. Meaning if you have a pocket engineer, you might want a pocket engineer to craft some of these to, like I said, help you with that final push to 100. That kind of weird, icky, gross, oh, I need to craft gear for people to finish my profession. This could be a good way to side skirt it. Spend some gold to craft some gear with baby sparks instead. Could be a way. But not really worth talking about in relation to materials here. What is worth mentioning, though, is that a lot of the... What was it? Is it profession gear? Yeah, a lot of the profession gear also uses renowned beast skins. Most epic profession. A skinning. I can't type today. I think there's 3 different variations of this as well. There's a majestic claw, there's majestic hide, and a majestic fin. Other than that, though, materials-wise, there's not really much to worry about. A lot of the gear, to be honest, you as the blacksmith don't really care about because it's going to be provided to you in the order. It's just how work orders have evolved. But it's worth at least blacksmiths knowing where they come from or trying to work out where they come from. Actually, I wonder if these can be bought and sold on the auction house. So the reality is blacksmiths don't actually need to worry about where these come from, because that's somebody else's problem. But if you're leveling blacksmithing to make your own stuff, then maybe you need to care a little bit. But very, very strong tinderbox vibes. Okay, that's basically the materials then done. We hit enter on that post. For those who are wondering what I'm actually doing, I'm writing out my mini blacksmithing guide in the Discord. Blacksmithing materials. Heavy consumers of all of the ore. Copper's converted into bars, then combined into silver or tin to make the higher grade alloys. Luminant flux is our expansion vendor material. Can be bought from most profession supply vendors. Tormented tantalum is gained from, currently unknown. It is used in most endgame crafts. Most of the epic profession tools and accessories require a skinning epic item. Majestic fin, claw or hide. Other than that, blacksmithing is pretty straightforward. Boom. Looks like something that would come out of a delve chest. It does kind of, doesn't it? It does kind of give those vibes. Let's try and do this in some sort of order. We've done basic overview of blacksmithing. We've done the basic materials. Now I guess we should probably talk a little bit about what we're crafting. Core blacksmith. Profession. Paths. Blacksmithing is a very heavy work order profession. Excluding alloys and waystones. What are they called? Waystones and whetstones? Midnight. Midnight leveling profession gear is bind on equip. Midnight leveling profession gears bind on equip. Where's the leveling set? Basically all this blood tempered set, isn't it? This once again looks to have a range to it. You get to make some of the things and equip them nice and early, sort of level 81 here, for example. Yet then some of them, the helm, for example, can't be used until you're level 90, so you're not going to equip. It's kind of weird that you never get the ability to just buy a set of this for an alt. You know, you get like 1 or 2 pieces to equip, and then eventually you can be wearing a whole set, but you never probably will wear the whole set. That said, quite a lot of these are saying either 81 or 90. I can't believe after like however many years they still can't kind of get these leveling sets to like feel worthwhile. But at least they're all bind on equip still. None of that's changing. And the reality is you actually do quite well crafting and selling these early on. You'd be amazed how much of this stuff actually does sell. On the big servers, it's going to be crunched down to literally crafting cost within seconds, but on the mid tier, the smaller servers, you can actually do quite well with this stuff early in the expansion. The annoyance is that even leveling stuff requires you like to specialize in it before you can do like put missives on it and stuff. Not that people probably would, but it makes the whole leveling set feel kind of useless. I still kind of wish that they just made base items for this sort of stuff. For the basic leveling stuff, even if they don't do it for endgame stuff, for the basic leveling sets, they should just make them base items and make people, you know, if you buy it and you want to, you buy a base item and then you attach a missive to it. And if you want an embellishment on it, you attach an embellishment on it yourself. It shouldn't be something that requires crafters to be particularly good at. Any visibility for the reps in alpha yet? Not much. Not much. Renown paths and stuff are not really a thing yet. Although there's they're kind of there. Partly. There's not much you can do with them yet. It feels very, very copy-paste, though, at least so far, behind the scenes. Such as while I'm on that topic, where was the vendor I found the other day? I can't remember. It was a vendor I found the other day where it was tiered access to stuff, pretty much exactly the same as what we've been used to. I think you had to get to like Renown 5 to buy some of the profession recipes and stuff. It was basically the same. It's usually safe to assume it's the same until somebody comes out and tells you it's different for a reason. Because most of it is copy-paste. Is there any... The Blood Knight set... Are these all... No visibility yet on where all of these recipes come from, although it would make sense if they come via these trees in some way. Learn the recipe for Spellbreaker's Ultimatum. Learn the recipe for Blood Knight's Mercy. Learn the recipe for Fast Strider's Chopper. Learn the recipe for Magister's Cleaver. So a lot of the recipes are... at nearly all of the... Okay, yeah. A whole bunch of the recipes you learn via the spec trees. Is there then anything that, weapon-wise, that is like not a spec tree, anything that's like pre-embellishment, or are these all just your general? These are all just standards, aren't they? There was only 3 pieces of armor that looked unique. We have Knight Commander's Palisade, a shield. Pre-embellished. The light protects. There's a chance when you're attacked to gain an absorb shield lasting 6 seconds. Should the shield be breached before it expires, the magic of the shield will erupt, dealing 1 damage to nearby enemies. Boom. 1 damage. Rebalance, I'm sure. Your harmful spells and abilities have a chance to bleed your target for a bunch of damage over 10 seconds. Harmful spells and abilities have a chance to increase your avoidance by 80 for 10 seconds. There's a couple of flavorful armor pieces. Shield, a dagger, and a pair of boots. Everything else, though, is either leveling or spectry. Standard spectry set. Which you learn unlocking their respective nodes here. I've not seen dirt piles, no. No dirt piles as of yet. Although, there doesn't appear to have been any weekly content added to the alpha yet. So we don't know what the weekly task list is going to look like for professions. Because how are you going to get your knowledge points? What you're going to do? Like, all of this sort of stuff doesn't seem to be a thing yet. Patron orders don't work or even exist for, like, midnight stuff yet. So, yeah. All of that is still to be added. You can spec into weapons, you can spec into armor. The old way is basically what replaces Ever-Burning Ignition now. Ever-Burning Ignition has been sliced. You now just basically have a spec tree that does the same thing, but of course it then creates a permanent advantage rather than something you have to, rather than a buff you have to keep up. Ingenuity node, resource node, multicraft node, and then weirdly they've just like crowbarred alloys into this track as well. 4 skill when crafting alloys per point. So there's 80 skill up for grabs from the tree. 90, 100, 110, 120 points from the tree. Alloys. $120 plus 140, 260, 260. Is that enough? Is that enough? What's 40%? 160. Plus 260. Yeah, Thaumaturgy's dead, yeah. There's Thaumaturgy is no more. What did I say from the Spectre? 100... Get 160 from using high quality copper ore. Plus 120 via the Spectre is 280. And everything cooking up here is 140. Which gives you 420, which does mean something like copper ingots can be guaranteed at top quality. You'll actually be 20 points over. And with an identical recipe difficulty, it does mean that all alloys should be guaranteed at top quality. You'll have to use high quality tin ore and high quality copper ingots in order to achieve that. But you got maybe 20 skill points to fiddle with. Still guarantee them. But can all can you multi-craft? You can multi-craft and resourcefulness affects both alloys. So if you were going to look at crafting alloys as effectively as possible, this entire tree is basically a must-have. 40, 60, 80, 100. 100 points gets you tippity top alloy crafter, assuming you're also using quality 2 materials and have all of your other ducks in a row. So alloys are going to be single digit profit margin very quickly. Alloys were like ludicrously competitive at the beginning of the War Within. And that was with the addition of the ever-burning ignition. With ever-burning ignition being removed, making it more simplistic, arguably, it's going to be a matter of minutes before making any profit from ingots and alloys is going to be almost impossible. This is the thing. It's going to be the only way that they can actually now inject some margin into this for any longer than about 5 minutes is to make the high quality materials difficult to get. Because if you can guarantee copper ingots, then you're going to be able to just throw some high quality tin and then guarantee these as well at high quality. If all of the alloys can be produced at high quality without that much trouble, guaranteed, in as high a quantity as the materials allow, no restriction there really. And 100 knowledge points ain't going to be that difficult. You can usually get 50 or so. You can usually get 50 or so, between 50 to 80 knowledge points really quickly. So if you can push to 100, you can be min-maxing alloys like presumably week 1. Does question how getting your profession tools and accessories will play a part in this. But with things like top tier profession, yeah, how would you get a full 100 skill just going the alloys route? You would need something that you could continuously craft all the way up to skill 100. But if you put all of your points in that, there isn't actually... You don't... Unless, of course, these alloys end up giving you skill points, like, way up until the high numbers. But I doubt they will. The fact that one is already yellow. Where's... Is there not... Blacksmithing feels like there's less again. I suppose no top tier alloy, no ever burning ignition. They make razor stones again for gathering, which becomes basically mandatory for gathering, doesn't it? Finesse by 43. Basically mandatory to have that razor stone up and running. 3 copper bars, 1 byproduct of prospecting and some vendor mats. They're not going to be very expensive. Keys again. How much acuity do the blue tools need? It's not implemented on the tools yet. So, none. Yeah, technically none. But I don't think it's been added. Because if you look at the... You look at the tooltip for Moxie, it does say it's used for blacksmithing recipes, midnight, profession tools and accessories. And for obtaining high quality reagents is an interesting tagline there. I wonder if that's got something to do with the fact that the supply dude has the surplus bags, the 600 Moxie bags, filled with reagents fit for an experienced blacksmith and possibly a recipe. Maybe that's what it means when it says high quality reagents, because I bet these only contain high quality stuff, much like they only contained quality 3 mats in The War Within. Yeah, I do think the Moxie is going to be a little, without a shuffle, means each profession is responsible for collecting their own Moxie. But it does, I feel it does heavily hamstring the amount of it you'll be able to get. Which is good, right? Because the shuffle basically meant that people could get fully geared in, like, they could get their profession up and running min-max, like, very, very quickly. We were seeing, like, literally week 1 full builds, which might not be as achievable now with Moxie being profession specific, which might, it delays things, but that's all it does. It's only a delay, and it's never going to delay things for more than as long as it takes the first person to do it. Which means it's fine for Season 1, but it makes Season 2 and Season 3 really boring. Because day 1 of Season 2, the expectation is that you're full build. And if you're not, you just lose. It's great for Season 1 system, but it either requires additional things to be added in Season 2 or Season 3, or a change to the system or a reset somewhere or something to make Season 2 and 3 feel like they're even worth doing anything with. You're going for profession tools is going to be the play for launch. Well, it worked very well in The War Within. There's no denying that those people who spec'd into profession equipment, you were crafting and selling the standard green BOEs on the auction house. Crafting up a bunch of these, selling them, maybe even taking them to other servers where there were, less people selling and doing them there. Then you would eventually build into you would build more into... You'd build more into that. And eventually start filling out the work orders for everybody. And if my suspicions are correct, if my suspicions end up being true, that the epic stuff is going to require concentration in order to craft it at top quality. Min-maxing your skill will reduce the amount of concentration needed, increasing the amount of crafts and orders that you will actually be able to fulfill every day. Because you might be limited to, you know, if you do need concentration to craft the epic ones, you can only make like a handful of profession tools. Well, what do you get? You get 250, give or take 250 concentration a day. If it takes 100 concentration a day, if it takes 100 concentration to craft an epic piece of gear at top quality, then you're not going to be able to fill more than 2 orders a day, really, are you? Okay. I made a gold cap selling the green tools around the expansion launch. Multiple servers though. Oh yeah, you're not going to make huge amounts doing it just on your home realm, but if you take them multiple places, you multiply your chances of the sales. Yeah. Get it right now. You can only influence it with the alloy and the optional reagents. Yeah, the only thing that has quality here is the alloys. So you'll need all high quality alloys. But as we've just mentioned, as long as the high quality ore is not impossible to, I mean, high quality ore will be more expensive, but it's just more expensive. There won't be any restriction on it. So high quality alloys also shouldn't be problematic. They'll just be more expensive. But you're right. At least at the moment, it's the only thing that influences it. These skinning mats could also be quite pricey at the beginning of the expansion as well, though. Especially since there's 3 different versions. Skinners might only be able to get 1 of these a day. And if they have to choose between which one, that also splits up the supply of them a bit more. Up until now, you needed a lot of concentration to craft something, even if you were only missing a few skill points. If the change that alt armies were low skill might have... I don't have this to hand because it's part of Craft Sim. But Craft Sim actually shows you the graphs of the concentration curve, of like how much concentration is needed based upon how much skill you are missing. These are things that Blizzard can tweak and tune. If they are going to make things require concentration to craft them, they can change that balance curve so that, you know, if you're close, it uses less. It was really weird missing like 1 skill and needing 150 concentration. It felt kind of really odd. You would assume that like one skill missing should equate to like 1 concentration. It should feel a little bit more linear in that if you can get really close, the actual amount of concentration you need to make it is very little. Starting rush with remixes over. Time to play something else. Timberborn is going out of early access. Oh, have they finished Timberborn now, have they? I never played that one. Running around with a bunch of, not gophers. What are they? Beavers. Looks quite fun. Is leatherworking actually useful in Midnight? It depends what you refer to as useful. It's as useful as it has always been. It creates both leather and mail, everything. So it's arguably twice as useful than blacksmithing or tailoring, but depends what you refer to as useful. Okay. Core profession paths. Yeah, tools does look like another good early season 1 option. Just because you can spec into 2 nodes here and then have access to all the tools and accessories. Your restriction actually on, I would imagine your restriction on profession tools and accessories is not your knowledge points, it's going to be Moxie, isn't it? You're not going to have enough Moxie to buy all of the recipes, I would imagine, at them costing 150 each. You would be foolish to buy a bunch of recipes and not use your Moxie for making your own stuff up here. So you're still going to want to prioritize getting your profession accessories as good as you possibly can them and get them, which isn't going to leave you much Moxie for actually buying these recipes, I would imagine. Meaning you kind of might have to make a choice there. Do you sacrifice your own tools in order to buy the recipes to fill orders for people who want them? But then are the people who want these via an order only going to want them at high quality, which is then going to cost you yet even more concentration? That's going to be a fine balance, depending on how much of this Moxie we can get. Do we know if there's still a catch-up system for knowledge points? We don't know. We don't know. The assumption is that it's just patron orders again, but patron orders aren't activated yet, so we don't know. Or it could very much be like how it was in The War Within, that until you've actually got a certain amount of skill, you don't get any patron orders. Any dungeon drop recipes at the moment that could be an issue? Not very many of the stuff has its actual recipe location fixed yet. There's a few things that come from vendors, but if anything comes from anywhere else, it often doesn't work. Like this, you can hover over this and it doesn't show you anything, which means they probably haven't decided where it comes from. I haven't spotted anything that specifically says it comes from a dungeon, though. Okay. Does each profession still have the ability to make their own green profession tools and accessories? You're not necessarily making your own ones, no. But they are bind on equip, so you just buy them off the auction house. Blacksmithing is a big profession for making profession tools and accessories. Engineering's another one that makes a lot of them. But it's not such that you always make your own. You often will make something. So like the blacksmith toolbox, for example, you get to make yourself, but the basic ones are all bind on equip, so you just yoink those off the auction house from somebody that's already made them. Okay, I need to look at the spec trees in a little bit more detail, I think. What are the spec trees called for blacksmithing? Craftsmithing? Craftsmithing is basically your profession, tools and accessories, and stones. Consume 5 less concentration when crafting tool stones. Oh, that's an interesting node. Ha ha ha! Okay. Is this going to be another one that these can only be produced at top quality with concentration? Improve your ability to craft tool stones, consumable items which temporarily enhance the effectiveness of your profession tools. The capstone node, once again, is consume 5 less concentration when crafting tool stones. 425? You can get 170 points by using top quality copper ingots and top quality dust shroud. So if you use high quality materials here, you get 170 points. Plus 140 from up here. It's 310. How many points can you get via here? Two skill to making tool stones per point spent. So that's 50, 55, 65, 80, 95. 405. Or 25 is the recipe difficulty. So you're 20 points short. If you take into account everything, you're 20 points short of making these. So once again, this is another indication that this could be another one of the select items that cannot be guaranteed at top quality without concentration. Which makes it a good candidate for concentration alt army kind of stuff, and it gives blacksmiths at least somewhere to burn their concentration. But it's going to make it slightly weird because that is still assuming you're still going to need concentration even if you're using high quality materials here. If you end up using low quality materials here, you're going to use significantly more concentration because normal quality materials do not provide any bonus. So you'd be getting 140 to minus 170. You'd only be at 235 skill using normal quality mats. Okay. Which is going to leave you miles away, which means you're going to be looking at spending a boatload of concentration each and every one. Okay, that's interesting. That's another scenario where concentration might be required to make top quality. I'm seeing this far too frequently for it to be an accident now. And the fact that the top capstone is once again a way to consume less concentration. Why would you put that there if you weren't using concentration in the first place? It would be pointless, right? Like, you could imagine this node somewhere on this side, but for the final, you've min-maxed your thing. If there's the indication that you're still using concentration all the way up until then, you get the final advantage of using a little bit less of it. This is happening a lot. This is happening a lot. I don't think it's going to be a general rule that you can craft everything at max quality. It seems quite carefully designed that you will be using concentration for max quality stuff. Okay. Anything else overly interesting in these nodes? Where you learn some of the recipes, if nothing else. The gathering professions, are there still nodes that allow you to herb mine whilst mounted? Yes. Yes. Craftsmithing. What's the main node give you? Just skill when making profession tools and accessories? Okay. Screenshot of this tree. Are those nodes still the first one in a given spec? Oh, I can't remember in that much detail off the top of my head. My overview video for herbing and mining is on YouTube already. I don't know if I wouldn't have probably gone into that finite detail. Yes, you can still spec into gathering whilst mounted. At what point or how many knowledge points, I can't remember. But it is possible. Tools and then accessories. This one is for the tool stones. We have the old ways. What's this one all about? Wonder how should I name the warband campsites where I put my concentration alts? Something about concentration camp 1, 2 just doesn't feel right. Oh dear. Oh dear. The old ways is, what's this tree doing? This is both your alloys and your secondary stats. Oh, shit. Put my annotations in it. What would you recommend be the first blacksmithing spec to invest knowledge points into? Well, in Season 1, Profession Tools is always a strong option. Season 1 sees the highest demand for profession tools and accessories. You also have a nice ramping path into success with them, because you can start by crafting the BOEs, which can be sold on the auction house, and then when you get better and you get more of the recipes, you can start filling work orders for people. It's a good Season 1 option. The problem with it, though, is that it does tail off in Season 2 and Season 3, where, and when I mean tail off, basically die a death. You would probably want to save a profession respec for Season 2, then to maybe switch into something else for Season 2. But Season 1, Profession Tools is very good. Alloys looks too easy so far. Sure, you can mass craft and sell alloys, but it looks too easy for me to believe that there's going to be much profit in it. Especially based on the other simplifications that we've seen to the professions. Seems far too easy to optimize, which will mean the profit will just be 0. Now, of course, your guild or your friends or your server might dictate that you go into crafting a very specific piece of armor or weapons for other people. That's obviously always an option, and this is where the long tail If you want your profession to work for you season 1, season 2, season 3 throughout the whole expansion, you spec into the weapons and the armor. But you then have to ask yourself the next question of which piece do you spec into first, because you have to choose one to begin with. But something simple, something straightforward, something that's almost guaranteed to get some orders and make you a bit of gold is the profession tools and accessories in season 1. At least for blacksmithing, anyway. This one is improving your ingenuity. Plus 10 ingenuity to all blacksmithing crafts. Is it the same all the way along? Very dull, very boring. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 ingenuity. All crafts. And 20 points for free by filling the node. So that's up to 70 ingenuity. Which, interestingly, there is nothing in there that increases your refund rate. Nothing in that node is increasing your refund rate. Gain the following bonus to all blacksmithing crafts per point of knowledge spent in this spec. Multicraft, ingenuity, resourcefulness. Oh, so 40 times 1, presumably. So that's 40 plus 3, 43, 46, 49, 52. Then plus 10 at the end, 62. Yeah, you can get a lot of ingenuity and multicraft and resourcefulness from this tree. There's nothing in this that's going to give you more than a 50% refund right now. Some professions can actually increase the refund percentage all the way up to 100, meaning when concentration procs, you can basically press the button again. Not so with blacksmithing. Alloys are also a very competitive market. Yeah, I mean, with it being region-wide, with there being no ever-burning ignition buff, it's going to be even more competitive than what we've seen before, because it's easier. There's less maths involved than there has even been previously. So with it being easier, I can only imagine it will be even tighter to try and squeeze any profit out of it. Not something that feels like an overly attractive path for me. Nothing secretly hiding away in here that buffs anything random, is there? No. And then we have the armor smithing tree. Is there a mechanic unique to blacksmithing? No. No. Ever-burning ignition's been removed. Instead, it's just baked into the old ways tree. Instead of you spending points on improving ever-burning ignition, which you would then have to craft and consume, you just spend points and you get stats permanently now. This is my point with alloys, that crafting alloys was already competitive in the War Within from literally day one. With ever-burning ignition, kind of mixing things up a bit, that you had a different crafting cost when you ended up only making a profit when you had your ever-burning ignition buff up, and even then it was sometimes determined on just how cheap you got your mats. Without that, there's no real reason for me to think that there's going to be much profit in alloys at all, ever. It's going to be far too easy to mass produce them. There's no real restriction. It's relatively cheap in terms of points to do it as well. If you're mass crafting alloys, you need 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 points. 100 points, and then you're min-maxed spec-wise. People will have that done within the first couple of weeks. And actually, there's room to move on this as well, because alloys had a recipe difficulty of 400, where I counted 420 skill that could be obtained. So you've actually got wiggle room in there, even to maybe not have this bar at 100, or maybe be missing something up here, or maybe only 80 knowledge points. But I don't know. There's room to move with that as well. Meaning alloys are going to be, unless something changes, unless they jack this recipe difficulty up, alloys are going to be mass producible way too easily, way too quickly for there to be any profit. The only interesting thing is that in the War Within, top quality alloys were often a candidate for concentration. If you need concentration elsewhere in blacksmithing, then you might not be so incentivized to spend it on the alloys. But of course, if you choose to spec into alloys, you might not have the other options where concentration might be needed, so it still might be your main use for concentration as well. I don't know. Until we can actually play with these properly, I'm having to do napkin math and do a lot of educated guesses. This is why these are first looks, not like deep dives. Armor smithing. Is there anything overly surprising about this tree, or does it just feel copy paste? Looks pretty generic to me. Master's Hammer now freely repairs gauntlets. So blacksmiths still get to repair their own gear for free. Looks exactly the same. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is an actual just straight copy paste with a few words changed, yeah. I never really pushed into any form of work order crafting particularly, but did people have more success with hyper specializing, or did people try and like fill out, or did people try and just unlock as many recipes as possible, even if it meant that you could only then craft those things at like quality 4, for example? Was having more recipes at your disposal a bigger advantage, or was being able to guarantee it at top quality all day long a bigger advantage? Go in on the first one and then spread. So yeah, let's say you want to hyper optimize on shoulders or something. You'd go 30, 30, full 25, which actually would also unlock the helm recipe and the boots recipe. Become really good at this. You'd have unlocked 3 recipes doing that. Then would you put points over in here and here to just unlock all of these recipes? Maybe. I don't know. A bit of a combination of the both, yeah. Top quality all day long, I'd say that's what made the most. Yeah, it's the gamble, isn't it? Like, because if you put 25 points in here, if you put your points in here, you're not putting your points in here. You either have 3 recipes and 1 of them at max quality, or you have 6 recipes, all of which you could probably do at quality 4 and just use concentration on, depending on how many orders you fill. It's kind of the balancing act, isn't it? Where do you spend your points early on? Obviously, eventually you just have them all, but... made good gold with the gear crafting at the start, but it gets so competitive fast. Was doing wrists and then boots for all the armors. Yeah, it's also the sort of like, don't spec heavily into something that clashes with tier set sort of logic as well. So like this row, for example, would probably be a no-go because it's got pants and chest pieces in. 2 of those are going to clash aggressively with set pieces, and the third one is shields, which is super specialist in the first place. But that path is probably an ignore. Middle path you have shoulders, which shoulders and helms also clashes with set pieces, unfortunately, but does have boots, which are often a prime candidate. You'd actually probably want to go this direction first, where you have gauntlets, van braces, and belts. Because all 3 of those are likely to be interesting. Waist wrists are in the same. Yeah, you got belts, braces, gloves, all in one tree. So you'd probably go this way first, because these are 3 items that I'd imagine in Season 1 are all going to see some love. Once you've got all 3 of these maxed out, then maybe you can start putting points in these 2 nodes to unlock these crafts. This looks like an easy Season 1 path, doesn't it, for armor at least? Tailor that I used for professional equipment was the only exception. I did robes and cloaks at the start. Yeah, tailoring cloaks is often a good one, because obviously that then means you can fill orders for literally every man and their dog. And then everybody goes the same route for the same reasons. Well, also true. Also true. Sometimes doing whatever is not the obvious thing to do turns out to be the better thing to do. That's why nothing is a guarantee. Then weapons. Hang on. Let me just get my notes down for the spec tree here. And let's also put wiggle around that one. The gloves, braces, and belt all on the same branch. Let's have a look at weaponsmithing. One thing with weapons was to go down blades first all the way. It just had the biggest market, at least for the war within. Have a little look at here. Weaponsmithing node, weapon stones. Hafted blades, maces, axes and pole arms, long blades, short blades. Yeah. Yeah, how many classes are looking at crafting a mace, an axe, or a pole arm relative to how many classes are looking for like a big dick sword? Weaponsmithing. You must choose either blades, bladed weapons, or hafted weapons. The agility pole arm is basically monks and druids. Yeah, when you compare against all of the warriors, death knights, paladins, everybody that has the chance to use bigger weapons, maybe blades do end up being naturally the slightly more attractive option. This sort of this sort of theory crafting is literally that, isn't it? It's just all a theory at this point. It's all guesswork, because if everybody goes in one direction, then the person that goes in the other direction will hoover up the small quantities of orders that you will always get for everything. If everybody goes the same route, it becomes hyper competitive and nobody wins. Why a bit of a balance is important, but these things called the weapon stones. Interestingly, having the weapon stones in this tree also gives possibility for there to be something to craft and sell for if you're not filling orders when speccing into weapons, which at least is nice. Sure, you're going to want to put all of your points into one of these directions first, but then you are 100% solely looking at filling work orders. At least having this node close by, you can make the whetstones, the waystones, craft those, to give yourself something to like, maybe something to use concentration on, maybe something to dump some mass crafting in to get that trickle sale of gold coming in whilst you're waiting for the orders. Maybe kind of nice that this is in the same tree. By putting points in weaponsmithing, you'll naturally unlock the whetstone and the waystone anyway. Because by the time you unlock your third spec tree, yeah, by the time you put 30 points in it, you'll get this node for free. Unlock the node for free anyway. Sure, you still probably won't be crafting them as efficiently as somebody that's put all 25 points in, but it could be a use for your concentration while you wait for orders on weapons. In the War Within, these were kind of like just one end of tree branch node within the like general blacksmithing tree that if you were going weapons, you'd probably completely have avoided. So maybe it's a smart place to put that. Okay, do we think this is detailed enough for the spec tree info? Blacksmithing has 4 spec trees. Craftsmithing is your profession tool accessory tree. Capstone nodes reduce concentration needed, suggesting you might always need to use concentration on some crafts. Nodes A and B are for improving the profession tools, and then C is for the tool stones. You've got the old ways tree, your profession stat boosting tree. Can't spell boosting. And also alloys. A is your ingenuity node, B is your resourcefulness node, C is the multicraft node, and D is for boosting alloy crafting. Armor smithing tree, the plate armor crafting tree. This is where you can unlock most of the end game armor recipes. Gloves, braces, and belt are all on the same branch, making this a very attractive path for Season 1, since none of these items clash with set pieces. And then weapon smithing tree. No real annotations needed on this one, but you must choose either bladed or hafted weapons to unlock all of the recipes. You can also spec into crafting the weapon stones here for something to mass craft and sell. And that basically is a good overview. That gets the point across, I think. Enter. Okay, we're getting some good progress done on blacksmithing here. Is there anything else that really specifically needs speaking about blacksmithing? Hasn't been covered. Yo, can you guys see this channel, by the way? I think I've set the permissions up on this channel, right? You guys shouldn't be able to comment, but you should be able to, like, thumbs up posts or whatever, or at least read it. Have access to it. These are kind of rough draft at the moment, and of course we're in alpha, so it's very early. But these are going to eventually end up being like mini basic overviews of each of the professions. Free mini guides basically for each of the professions. I'm not going to lie, I'll be quite open with you guys. It's a good way for me to funnel people into the Discord. Grows the Discord nicely. Plus, especially with people not having access to the alpha and beta, I hope it's at least useful. Has anybody found where this is yet? Soulbound? No, it literally says bought and sold on the auction house. Okay, I'll record my first impressions of blacksmithing. Other than that, I don't think there's much more that needs to be spoken about as a first little overview. At the moment, the PvP recipes are just bought off a vendor. I'm going to assume that changes. I would imagine because it's early alpha, this is just the default source for them. I'm going to assume that they don't stay just costing buying them straight from a vendor. That would seem really odd. That feels maybe like, yeah, I don't know why. That just feels odd. Yeah, they've still got all of the wrong. The War Within Season 3 veteran track. Yeah, they've still got all the wrong stuff going on here. Depend on the weapon types that can be crafted at whatever the equivalent of 590 was for midnight. You're looking for the gold rush at the start. Yeah, I know that it's neither of these are directions that I will go in. My blacksmith will probably be relatively selfishly created for the purpose of making profession tools for all of my other crafters and to fill orders within the guild. I can't really see any particular need or desire for me to hyper specialize into armor or weapons personally, but that's because I like to play across many characters and I can't be asked with work orders until they change something about them to make them easier to use. I will bite the bullet and deal with orders for the purpose of profession tools and stuff, but it's of direct benefit to me at least. That said, there's no harm in having a few blacksmiths. My goal, and I've spoke about this a little bit, and this is not finalized, but my plan is to have one of every profession on all 5 of my accounts, meaning I will have 5 of each profession, meaning I can go in 5 different directions if needs be. Blacksmithing doesn't really feel as if it's very high priority for that kind of system. But for example, I could have one blacksmith going into profession tools. I could have one blacksmith going into profession accessories. I could have one blacksmith going into the production of alloys. Although the competitive nature of that probably leads me to believe that just buying them off the auction house is going to be basically the same anyway. So that's like 50-50 if that's even going to be necessary. That's only 3 blacksmiths. One blacksmith could, in theory, go in. I could make one just to fill orders if it's necessary. That could be a 4th, and the 5th one could spec into the weapon stones primarily. Maybe, possibly, if they see big enough demand, but I could easily have 5 different blacksmiths set up to do that. But the question is any one of those going to be profitable enough to actually make the adventure of making 5 even worth it? There's nothing that I'm going to be looking to AFK mass craft, though, I don't think, with blacksmithing. So it's not a strong candidate for having multiple copies of yet. This is me speaking, like, in terms of what I roughly plan to do. Made killing, selling some of the profession equipment from engineering, the mining stuff in particular. Yeah, engineering has got a lot of profession gear. Engineering's got loads of the stuff. And it's making some cool... It's making the tools as well. That's the thing that matters most to people. And more importantly, it's the thing that people might get first, because it actually also comes with the highest amount of skill. If you have a limit to how much Moxie you have, if Moxie becomes a limitation to how quickly you can fill these out, most people will probably choose to get their profession tool first, so the professions that make all of the tools do really well. Though blacksmiths are going to have an absolute field day with making pickaxes, sickles, and skinning knives for that exact reason. From all of the gatherers that will inevitably want to get these as well. These recipes are purchased with Moxie, at least so far. Yeah, options, lots of options. But weirdly, my TLDR for blacksmithing is that it feels significantly cut down to the war within. Less alloys, far more simplistic alloy system here. Doesn't look like there's any fancy tinderbox style reagents going into a top tier alloy to make it expensive, because there just isn't a top tier alloy. You also don't have the ever burning ignition system to kind of, you know, muddy the crafting costs between players to actually sort of leave room for a bit of margin in there. This seems really, really straightforward and basically a dead on arrival for profits, in my opinion. Ultimately leaving the rest of the profession to basically be work orders. Work orders, work orders, work orders. Okay. That's about as much as I want to do with blacksmithing for now. Can do for now until we get more pieces of the puzzle. Right, now I need to look at doing roughly the same, but for enchanting. Because people have been pestering me to get an overview for enchanting. Namely because it's been so goddamn flipping popular from the perspective of concentration, this expansion, that people are biting at the heels to find out if it's going to be the same or better or worse. I'm worried I might not be able to answer that question yet, but can I bet I can't disenchant this green stuff, can I? Not a valid item.
I can't use that. 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 I can't use that.
Damn. I was really hoping some of these freebie items that I can mass produce would be disenchantable, but they're not. I feel like they're going to nerf it due to the influx of remix alts. I still can't decide what the outcome is going to be with concentration. Simply because the more I look, the deeper I dive, the more times I find recipes that don't appear to be able to be guaranteed at top quality. Meaning that they will be very strong, that, you know, if there are certain items in the game that can only exist at high quality because concentration has been used on them, that's really good for concentration alt armies. It means they will be able to bang out a bunch of those. They will always hold some form of premium in terms of price because of that. That creates a really good opportunity. But on there's lots of flip sides to the same argument. There's lots of things to indicate that, well, only having two qualities of materials one quality or normal quality not giving you any skill, and then high quality materials basically acting the same as using quality 3 mats today. Doesn't give you really any, it means that if you're trying to save cost by using normal quality materials, you're going to end up using potentially boatloads of concentration to make even one single craft, because your concentration is having to cover way more of the skill that you're missing. Whereas when you use quality 2 materials, all quality 2 materials is still giving you 25% of the difficulty for free. You have to make up 25% more skill with concentration. It could very dramatically reduce the amount of crafts you can make per alt. And I mean, Jewel Crafters, Scribe, like enchanting, you could optimize it and min-max it to get like 8 to 12 enchants, weapon enchants per 1,000 concentration. If you're having to use a lot more concentration per craft though, because you're trying to make up way more recipe skill, that 8 to 12 per alt could go down to like 3 to 4 per alt, which, halves the profitability of it potentially. But it also halves the supply. Does that mean that with half the supply, there'll be more profit per unit? You don't know. You should be able to craft guaranteed. If they don't, then it goes against the whole arbitrage system. While I've already found many scenarios where you're not going to be able to mass produce something at top quality. Now, obviously, it's early days, but it doesn't seem to be so much of an accident that this is happening, especially when you are seeing nodes within spec trees like this, where you have capstone nodes giving you the advantage of using 5 less concentration when you craft things. Consume 5 less concentration when crafting trade tools. Why would they bother putting that on a capstone node if you were to get to this point and then be able to guarantee it without concentration anyway? Seems kind of pointless, doesn't it? So this only goes to strengthen my impression that you might not be guaranteeing everything at top quality. 5 less concentration. Wow, such luxury. True. It still doesn't feel very impactful, but somebody has made the decision to put it there in the first place. And you have to question then what led to the decision of putting that there in the first place. If the philosophy was that you should always be able to craft everything at top quality anyway without the use of concentration, why would you then go put a consume 5 less concentration, as the final finishing line for a spec? Doesn't, those two thought processes conflict. Before I start looking at this in any great detail, let me grab a drink quickly. Hang on. Enchanting is going to be a touch more difficult to get a good overview for, because I don't really have much cannon fodder for disenchanting or getting materials or doing anything here, really. At least I can see the spec trees without having leveled it up any, but would still have been nice to test things a little bit more. We're going to have to wait for beta for that, though. Sammy! Thank you very much for the raid. I appreciate it. Welcome in, boys and girls. What were you up to today? Were you doing some... Every time I lurk in your stream occasionally, you're often doing some raiding. I hope you're having fun. Thank you for bringing you and your friends over. You need to dash, I understand. All the way from Canada. Damn. Intercontinental. We're poking around on the alpha today. We are looking at some of the professions. I'm trying to get a bit of an overview for each of the profession. There are some subtle changes going into the new expansion that probably won't impact too many people, but yeah. You watch Sam as well? Sorry for your loss. I pop in occasionally. You've caught us just as we're about to start looking at enchanting, which has been a popular profession for goal making in the War Within, especially with players that have loads of alts, because you could quickly set it up, craft a few things each week, throw them on the auction house and make bank. The question is it going to stay the same, or are they going to balance things to make that not happen? Would have the highest stream ratings. I certainly wouldn't be getting 99 percentile passes if you saw me raiding, that's for sure. I let the people that are good at the game do the raiding. We can still shatter the new moats, which there's 4. These moats, by the way, seem to drop in the specific zones. The moat of light. Moat of light comes from Eversong Woods. Yeah, each of the 4... Oh! Oh! We have a map! Hot damn! We have a map, finally. Well, sort of. Sort of. Oh, okay. Oh, we actually have a Zulaman map now, which is cool. We've been running around in the Void Storm for a couple of days anyway, so we've seen this map a few times. Okay, we don't have all of the maps. Ah, okay. Very nice. Coming together. Sorry, that was a squirrel. My point was that in each of the 4 different zones is where you get one of these moats. So if you're out farming the moats, which whoever played Dragonflight will remember that, what were they called, Rousings and Awakened in Dragonflight was big business. Big business on those. They were often a bottleneck for crafting many things, even basic potions and silly little things. But these moats are going to be big business again this time. Obviously, enchanters are just shattering them down for a buff, right? Resourcefulness, ingenuity, multi-craft whilst practicing midnight enchanting. If we smush one... Oh, hang on, I haven't got the recipe. Oh, you need to somehow learn... Okay, you don't get that for free to begin with. When do we learn this? Spellbound Shatterer. Oh, does that even come from Spectre? Oh, it does. Okay, there's an entire Spectre for the purpose of this now. Is there an actual date for the beta, or is it still just soon? Holly tweeted out that it's, you know, soon TM. That's about as official as we have. I think they're going to roll the alpha straight into the beta. I don't think they're going to take I don't think they're going to take it down for... They might take it down for a week, maybe, but it's not going to be long. Meaning I would kind of half expect to see the beta turning up like a week's time, 10 days maybe. I don't think beta's very far away. Draenor Legion and Kata professions are honestly painful to level up currently. Legion's a ball ache. Legion is an absolute grind. Because you often have to do all of the quest lines to unlock a lot of the recipes you need to level them up. But if you're doing that for decor, remember that you only really need about 80 skill if you are just looking to level it up enough to get the recipes. 80 seems to be where most of the recipes sit. So you don't need to get them to 100%. There's a lot of BFA ones that are gross as well because they use all of the flipping expulsum. Right, so this Spellbound Shatter tree then is just going to be our secondary stat buff tree, isn't it? You're still going to want to maintain a Shatter buff at any point when doing any form of enchanting. Generating a little bit of a constant cost. Now, what I found quite interesting in the War Within was that everybody just used the... what was it called? A crystalline essence or something. There was one essence that was basically free, wasn't there? So you didn't really care. It was just a button you had to remember to press. But I don't think any of these motes are going to end up being like bottom of the barrel free because they're used in so many crafts across so many professions. There is unless one zone just ends up becoming so overpowered for farming in that there's just a massive abundance of the moat from that zone. If that's the case, there might end up being one that's significantly cheaper than the other. But it already looks like a lot of these materials are going to be... A lot of these materials are used all over the place. So frequently, in fact, that I would imagine it would keep their price... you know, up for longer. No, beta is still just coming soon. Alpha's only scheduled for 5 weeks. Alpha's only scheduled for like another 7 days-ish. This could have been the last alpha build that we've just had today. If that's the case, there's the possibility that they just roll it into beta as early as next week. But we don't know. We don't know. Alright, so we're shattering to gain resourcefulness, multicraft, ingenuity. Additionally, you will gain +1 ingenuity per point in this spec for a short term when shattering a midnight essence. Consume 2% less concentration when concentrating on midnight formulas. Do we have... Ooh, let's do some maths here. Do we get a 100% refund on ingenuity with enchanting again? You have a 0% chance because you have no ingenuity, but refunding 50%. So 50% is the baseline still. Any bonus chance? Consume 2% less concentration. 3% less, that's a total of 5. 10% reduction from this node. This is the resourcefulness node. Right, this one is where we're going to hope to find it. This is the ingenuity node. Ingenious breakthroughs refund an additional 5%. 15. 20. 25. 30. So no. No is the answer. No appears to be the answer. It appears that you might only get as high as an 80% refund. Unless I've miscalculated something there. What does the base node give? Granting you 2 ingenuity per points in the spec. Additionally, your ability to wield your concentration will improve. Whatever that means. Okay. There's a possibility then for only an 80% refund on concentration. I like that it reduces concentration cost instead of refunding more when having an inspiration proc. Having a 100% refund, though, was kind of critical to the alt army thing. It meant that sometimes you would just get lucky and you'd chain like 5 you'd chain 5 ingenuity procs in a row, for example. Whereas if it only refunds 80%, 1 proc is not enough to press the button again. You need 2 procs before you can press the button again. Multicraft grants up to 25% additional goods. Oh, that's interesting. That's not a chance to proc multicraft. That's an additional yield when it does proc. That's fun. Is that the same? What did we get here? Resourcefulness refunds 5% more materials. Okay, so for those less educated on how the profession system works, when resourcefulness procs, so you have your chance for resourcefulness to proc, but when it does proc, you get an average of 30% of the materials back. So if something requires 10 materials, you'll on average get 3 of them back. Sometimes you get 2 of them back, sometimes you get 4 of them back, but it averages out to be about a 30% refund when resourcefulness procs. Of course, it can proc on any of the materials, which means sometimes when it procs on the expensive material, it's like Christmas, but it all averages out if you do it enough to be about a 30% refund. So this node is actually going to increase the percentage it returns back to you by an additional 5%. So this will give you an average of a 35% refund of the mats. How high does this go? That's resourcefulness chance. That's another 5%, so we're up to 40% of the mats back now. 45%. Okay. So this means that resourcefulness could potentially average out to refund you half your materials. 50% refund, up from 30, which is a big difference. It makes resourcefulness more important. A lot more important. If you can get an average of 50% of the materials back, you're more incentivized to put heavier focus on resourcefulness. Especially considering, at least historically, enchants don't multicraft. Let's just double check that that still looks to be true. That does still look to be true. Okay. It's not going to change your... Well, what it does do is it weakens the strength of ingenuity. It weakens the strength of concentration crafting. But it definitely amps the strength of resourcefulness. If when it procs, it is going to give you an average of 50% of your mats back, that's kind of magical. Obviously, this is all only once you've got your shatter buff up, but that should be a given. you absolutely just keep the shatter buff up whenever you're doing anything. Okay, that's fun. But only an 80% refund, but up to 50% resourcefulness procs. How do we think that affects concentration crafting? It will mean that there's more value in the concentration, because concentration gives you the ability to, you know, the more times you can press the button, the more chances there is for that resourcefulness. And then when it does proc, it means your crafting cost is significantly cheaper. Not only 30% cheaper, up to 50% cheaper. So if an enchant costs, I don't know, 10,000 gold, you know, all of a sudden when resourcefulness procs, it only costs an average of 50,000 gold. 5,000, like half price literally when resourcefulness procs. Fun. It means there's a much bigger swing in the the lowest and the lowest and the highest crafting costs you could have. Okay, well that's fun. So that's a buff that we just need to keep up. Not too different to the War Within. Once we have that buff up, what are we doing with it? You use 1% less concentration when concentrating on Kazalgar recipes. Well, in that case, there's no reason to not have the epic one. I guess that replaces a similar buff to what we used to have with the bags before, that tailors I don't think make this time. I think that's been axed. One of the simplifications of tailoring has been to get rid of the crafting of bags, I think. Speaking frankly, I believe that multicraft needs to go. It messes up markets. Resourcefulness is fine. More predictable and less RNG. It's just the same thing in the opposite direction, though. Obviously, multicraft producing whole items and whole items for free is significantly more powerful than just getting a percentage refund. But it's exactly the same system in the opposite. It's just in the opposite direction. Because with enchanting, if you can get your resourcefulness to be a 50% refund, 2 resourcefulness procs is basically like 1 free item, isn't it? It's the same thing. It's just, you know, one's a saving, and like Blizzard, if they were really clever about this, which they're definitely not, and they absolutely won't do, but if they were really clever about this, they would make it so that you could stack your resourcefulness procs much higher than your multicraft procs, which would actually sort of balance the strength of both of the secondary stats. If multicraft only happens 10% of the time, but it gives you a free thing, you only need your resourcefulness to proc 30% of the time with a 50% refund for it to actually be more powerful. But because Blizzard doesn't balance it, it's basically been a default rule that if it can multicraft, stack multicraft, because that's always the stronger stat. But this is just because the balance is so off. Interestingly, when was it? It was 10.1, I think, where they planned to make some adjustments to these, and then they backtracked it before the patch went live. and then never said anything about it again. I think it is going to be worth, when the beta lands, actually doing some pretty extensive testing just to make sure that we do understand how resourcefulness works. Because, you know, there, talking about enchanting, I was making the assumption that resourcefulness still works the same way, which is that it averages out to a 30% refund, which with a plus 20 from the spec tree would give you a 50% refund. We don't know that that's true yet. We don't know that that's the case. That's just an assumption that they've copy-pasted it from the War Within. For all we know at this point, I don't think there's many people that could confirm otherwise yet. For all we know, they've jacked up the refund rate on resourcefulness and completely crushed the freebies that you get via multi-crafting. We don't know that yet until we can play with them properly, but can't really see why they would need to change the way the stats work. When they're on a mission to simplify the professions, changing how the core stats actually work would seem to be counterproductive, honestly. So I'm going to assume they're the same until proven otherwise. Because changing them would seem kind of silly. It's nice that they have given you details here. Does this actually even tell you any of the actual info that you really need? Increases the chance of using fewer reagents in a craft. Only reagents that are not bound to you can be affected. So you can't proc on a spark, for example. Resourcefulness can be increased by equipping profession tools and accessories, by spending knowledge points to specialize in certain crafts. To specialize in certain crafts can boost resourcefulness related to those recipes. That's not English. That's not English. Spending knowledge points to specialize in certain crafts can boost resourcefulness related to those recipes. Okay, it's kind of English, but it's not great English. Could do with some punctuation. Multi-craft increases the chance of crafting additional items. Reagents and consumables can yield additional items, while equipment cannot. Multi-craft can be increased by equipping a profession tool and accessories. Spending knowledge points to specialize in certain crafts can boost multi-craft related to those recipes. It's kind of cool that they've done this, but they should actually tell you the maths. I'm of the opinion that if you're going to go to the degree of telling people what these stats do it properly, right? If you're going to have a reference point for what a stat is, tell people what it does. Is that not fair? Tell people that when resourcefulness procs, on average, it will give you 30% of your materials back. Tell people that when multi-craft procs, it's a multiplier based upon the base amount of items that would have been crafted naturally. So an item that crafts 1 will have a multiplier that might mean that you could get between 2 or 4 on a multi-craft. If it's an item like a potion or something that might craft up to 5 at a time, then that multi-craft proc can be based upon the original number. They should just give us the maths, basically. This is what I'm saying. If they're going to go as far as to put these little reference points in, this is just fluff. This is no more useful than a standard-ass tooltip. This doesn't actually tell you anything else. I mean, it is literally the tooltip, by the way. There's no additional information here other than what they've smushed into a tooltip anyway. So, yeah. I like that this is a step in the right direction, but I think they should go as far as to actually tell us what the maths is involved in this. For transparency. You can choose to ignore it, but at least the game has then told you what it is, so it's fair for everybody. because it's this maths that people use when they, they do their spreadsheets, and they math out all their crafting costs, and they figure out if they craft 1,000 of something, what will it actually cost per unit. A lot of the spreadsheets are built up based upon the foundation maths that the game doesn't tell you. We just have to figure it out. Yeah, I think these are a good start, but I think if they're going to do it, I think they should do it properly. Okay, rods, wands, consumables. We're making weapon oils again. This is a good place to point out just how much these motes are used in things. You've got different motes being used in different weapon oils, enchants. They have broken down enchants again. It looks to be sort of like regionalized. That's their reason for using different motes on different enchants. I think you'll see mote of wild magic, mote of primal energy, mote of light. They're splitting up the three. Haranir, heightening. Amani augments. Thalassian talents. Is it maybe then... Where's the fourth mote? Where's the void mote? Is that then maybe predominantly used in weapons or something? Yeah. So the void motes seem to be more... Oh, no. Surprising lack of void motes being used in enchanting. Maybe they're very, very heavily used somewhere else. I am really a fan. Good Twitch name, I like that. Welcome in. Gleefuls again. Every single one of these using a mote. Yeah, surprising lack of void motes. What's the mote actually called? One weapon enchant, one tool enchant, one illusion, 2 glamours, and a house decor item? That's a surprisingly small amount of void motes relative to the others. Let's look at Wowhead. Are there other recipes that use this significantly more frequently? BOE, create a bag, 40 slot reagent bag, spell threads, contract, dark moon card, optional reagent. All amethysts within jewel crafting seem to use void motes. Ingenuity vial. No, 40, 40. Okay, Mastery Flask using 2 Void Motes. Okay, well, if nothing else, Void Mote is used by 44 different recipes. What about a Wild Magic one? Is used in 86 recipes. So already we can see that one mote is being used significantly more than others, if we're only considering straight recipes used. Look at how many of these motes are used in enchants. If we then do a comparison to like Mote of Wild Magic, look how many more enchants require these motes of Wild Magic. And that's just enchants. Yeah. These motes of Wild Magic are also used in a lot of other stuff. Haste flasks. Where most reagents get consumed in is in consumables. So if there's you know, the major potion or something, a major consumable like a potion or a flask using will be a big sink of those materials. The amount of things that get consumed in gear doesn't make a lot of difference. But every flask is going to take motes of some sort. This is why I think these motes are going to play a very similar. These motes are going to play out very similar to what we experienced in Dragonflight, where Rousing and Awakened were basically the linchpin for crafters. If you can get your motes cheap, you're just good. you're just good. And this means from one patch to another, stocking up on cheap motes towards the end of the expansion becomes a bit of a no-brainer. Because then when the next season launches, they'll double, triple in price, and you'll just be laughing all the way to the bank. The rest of the materials are like considered almost like secondary materials in most crafting. It's going to be interesting if these motes can be farmed for, though. Like as drops from mobs, for example, or whether their source is only going to be via herbing and mining. There's no mote of wild order, though. There doesn't seem to be like that 5th mote that stands above that's used in rarer recipes and is rarer itself. Okay. Anyway, we're kind of getting distracted by squirrels here a bunch. Looking at just the quantity of materials needed in enchants. 15 dust, 10 shards, 2 crystals. 20 dust, 10 shards, 2 crystals. 15, 3 and 1. 20, 10 and 2. Even the weapon enchants 20, 15 and 2. There's substantially less total quantity materials going into each enchant. Why is this important? This is important because that is why it made concentration alts for enchanting very good. Because you would basically take the price difference between a quality 2 and a quality 3 material, and then let's say an enchant used 100 materials, you'd take that difference in price and you'd multiply it by 100. That was the saving you would make by using concentration instead, which created a nice big juicy chunk of value from using that concentration. If you use simply less materials, you have less of a multiplier on that possible, total cost. So whereas here, 35 dust, 10 shards, 2 dawn crystals, that totals up to way less materials than what we saw in the War Within. Plus, what we also know, with only 2 qualities, you're likely to be spending way more concentration. You could be looking at, as it stands here right now, the only materials here, if you use quality 1 materials, you get no bonus. No bonus can be obtained by normal quality materials. So you might, if you want to make a Berserker's Rage weapon enchant, for example, looking at okay, so let's say you got a full build on the go. You got 140 points up here. Do the maths, I suppose. Let's work it out. What do we get from the spec tree? Aranir. Where's the weapons? I don't know. Doesn't really matter, does it? 1 point per. Plus 5 skill for all. 30 skill, 35, 40, 50. 50 points from in here. Let's say we're going down this way. Uh, 20 times 1's another 20, so that's 70, 75, 80, 90, and then let's say you spec into something. 90, 100, 110, 115, 120, 130. There's about 150. Let's assume there's about 150 skill you can gain from the spec tree. So, if you start with a 480 skill, you get about 150 of that skill from the spec tree. You get about 140 by being fully optimized up here. That means you still need to make up 190 skill with concentration, which is about half, is a little under half, meaning you're probably looking at about 200 concentration, 200 to 250, maybe even as much as 300 concentration to use quality 1 mats, even with a full built enchanter. So that could, in essence, mean that you might only be able to craft 3 items even if you get in, and let's not forget, you don't get 100% refund on ingenuity with enchanting any longer. You only get as high as 80% refund. Meaning you need 2 ingenuity procs for you to be able to press the button again. So you might be making less than, a single bar of concentration might be making you less than 5 enchants. And if it makes you less than 5 enchants, you're going to have to hope there's a massive price difference between quality 1 and quality 2 materials. Otherwise, enchanting concentration is heavily nerfed. Will the beta test be available in a week to everybody who purchased the Epic Edition? Yes, if you've pre-ordered the Epic Edition, you'll have access to the beta when it launches. That when it launches is the question mark right now. $333 would be optimal, since a lot of people have concentration farms. Your prerogative is still to get as much use out of your concentration as possible, though. The point I'm trying to make here is that you might be making only a couple of enchants, potentially. You might only be able to make a couple of enchants with a full bar of concentration, which greatly limits the profitability of concentration alt armies via enchanting. And like I said, that was also then theorizing that you have this bar full and you have your points up here full. If you've got a recipe difficulty of 480, and even putting points in the spec tree, let's say that saves you 150, you've got 330 recipe skill still missing. That could end up being pretty close to that 333 concentration per craft. In essence, meaning you're only guaranteed 3 enchants. You're going to have to hope that there's at least 1,000 gold profit on each of those enchant for it to be even worth considering. And even then, a lot of people look at it and go, not really. We'll see how it plays out. We'll have to see how it plays out in terms of how high quality enchant materials, how easy they are to source, and that depends on disenchanting. Because it also depends on there actually being stuff to disenchant as well. We've spoke about this a little bit with enchanting before, but there's already a bit of a strong concern that there's not going to be enough stuff to disenchant to get dust in the first place. Considering dust is used in 3 times the quantity of anything else. Usually it requires there to be some mass craftable green item that can be disenchanted. And there's not many of those knocking about. Certainly not ones that will be cheap enough to be potentially disenchant fodder. Which might cause the same scenario that we had at the beginning of the War Within, which is a drought of dust, causing the price of dust to get very expensive. If you remember, in the War Within, they had to hotfix enchanting to give us the ability to shatter shards. Which isn't here, by the way, I would like to point out. Shattering is not here. It's almost like history's repeating itself. And on the flip side of things, there's a suspicion that Dark Moon cards are actually going back to their old school way of Dark Moon cards being quite expensive, which means you won't be disenchanting Dark Moon cards, which means you won't be getting crystals. So where do the crystals come from? There's a lot of questions about the materials with enchanting. There's still lots and lots of question marks here. Mostly because we don't have proper means to test it yet. There's a lot of question marks about enchanting. No shatter No shard shatter, I should point out. Meaning there's no way to turn shards into dust. That means to get dust, you have to disenchant greens. Assuming disenchanting's not changed. You know, assuming the same rules apply, that you disenchant a green and you get dust, you disenchant a blue and you get a shard, and you disenchant an epic and you get a crystal. Assuming those rules are the same, there's quite some question marks about where all of the dust and where all of the crystals are going to come from. Shards, easy business. Every profession's leveling gear is mass producing rare items, which could then be, you know, like here, for example. I mean, let's just disenchant a couple of these just for science. Not a valid target? Okay, well, disenchanting just doesn't work, full stop then. These are blacksmithing crafting items. Okay, still real early. Disenchanting doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. But it's there definitely appears to have been, even if we don't have the answers right now, there definitely appears to have been steps taken to limit the effectiveness of concentration within enchanting. Step number 1, reducing the sheer quantity of materials needed to make each enchant is step number 1. Step number 2 was limiting ingenuity refunds to a maximum of 80%. Still defaults at 50, but no longer can you get a 100% refund. Those are two relatively clear and obvious changes that arguably could have only been made to limit enchanting concentration. There's not really much reason to have done that otherwise. Stack on top of that the fact that you get no skill bonus by using normal materials. So you have to cover the cost of all of the skill with your concentration, naturally increasing the amount of concentration that you'd have to use per craft. Yeah, there's 3 separate things there to indicate that they've tried to nerf enchanting concentration quite a bit. It would just be a consistency thing. I think enchants in the War Within was the only profession where ingenuity refunded 100% concentration. No. There were others as well. The difference was, though, that you were often crafting things that could multi-craft in the first place, so you would still choose to stack multi-craft. Even though dual crafting, for example, I think gave you a 100% refund once spec'd into. It's just you still didn't care about it because you cared more about a multi-craft proc. Inscription and blacksmithing for sure, refunded full. Yeah, there was definitely other professions that could. It's not a problem, just load a ton of gold to auction and buy reagents. Disappointed in the long run since they removed 1 tier and you just click concentration with just the recipe. It definitely doesn't feel as if concentration armies. Let me put it this way: we don't have the answers to draw a solid conclusion yet, but it definitely feels like they've taken steps to limit the effectiveness of it. They've definitely tried to limit the effectiveness of it, but this could be in counter to the fact that I've seen quite a few things to indicate that not everything will be able to be guaranteed at top quality anyway. There's quite a few things I've seen within a few professions that seem to suggest that being able to turn up with full build still isn't going to be enough to mass produce quality 3 things. And especially when the spec trees are like referencing that as well. You know, spec trees turning up and saying that like, oh, now you can use 5 less concentration. Why would they say that if you were meant to get to a point where you didn't need to use concentration? I would like to reduce it to 0, please. 5% less than 0 is still 0. In terms of what we actually make, though, boot enchants, chest enchants, helm, ring, shoulders, weapon, tool enchants. It's worth noticing there is a multi-craft tool this time round. So being able to stack a multi-craft tool with a multi-craft enchant now becomes possible. Only reinforcing that if you can stack multi-craft, you probably should. There are very few, like, for crafting enchants is probably the only scenario where you'd use a resourcefulness enchant on your tool now. There's nearly everything else in the game that you might want to be crafting multiple of can also multi-craft. Alchemy, for example, multi-craft tool, multi-craft enchant, just all day long. Jewel crafting, cutting gems, multi-craft tool, multi-craft enchant, all day long. It very much simplifies that options with having a multi-craft enchant. Sometimes you'd be like, okay, well, I know I want a multi-craft tool, but do I want the resourcefulness enchant or do I want the ingenuity enchant? And that answer is slightly situational. But with the choice of a multi-craft enchant, you are almost always going to take that, even for concentration builds. Isn't there an NPC that gives you the learnt talents? How are you supposed to test it right now? I don't think we really are meant to test it right now. That comes in the beta. Cheap vendors are often switched on in the beta, or when they want to like properly test a raiding or something like that, they give they put the cheat vendors on for that, so then people can get their raiding gear, you know, raiding spec characters quickly built. That turns up in the beta. Once again, there's nothing. There's no like finishing reagents or anything. Is there a single profession that creates any finishing reagents, or have they just not added them into the game yet? These are like weapon oils. Are they on inscription, maybe? Our inscription. No. No finishing reagents on inscription. Tailoring? Can we find a craftable finishing reagent anywhere? These are... Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh, no. These are embellishments. These aren't finishing reagents. Nope. Alchemy? Does anybody make a finishing reagent? I hadn't really noticed this up until now. The funny thing is when I'm testing these professions and this sort of stuff, I'm often looking for new things. It's kind of a bit of a bit of a mind fuck at the moment, because it's not so much a case of looking for what's new, it's looking for what have they cut out. Embellishment. Try alchemy. Potions, cauldrons, flasks, transmute, stones, house decor. No, there's no crafted finishing reagents anywhere. That's odd. There's reference to them all over the place. I mean, flipping half the crafts are like, would you like to put a finishing reagent on it? Would you like to unlock the ability to use finishing reagents? So they're somewhere. They're coming in some way. I had not spotted that. Maybe cooking and fishing? We can't get to a cooking or a fishing trainer right now. At least one that I've found. Out of pure curiosity, let me look on a level 90 character. No, because the cheap vendors are usually knocking about over here, look. Like, they're in the capital cities, you usually have the cheap vendors lined up around here. But they're, yeah, they're not switched on.
Looking for something special?
Like a set of endgame equipment. Oh, interesting. We are technically then, for all intensive purposes, in the last phase of the alpha now. Because now we can actually go and do all 4 zones by the looks of things. Out of curiosity, what does a set of endgame essentials look like? $197.
I've been expecting you. Ancestors watch over you.
Oh, it would have been really nice if they could have turned on the cheap vendors for this last week of the alpha. So that we could actually test the professions properly. Otherwise, what was the flipping point? They've been in look but don't touch mode for 5 weeks now. Does a level 90 character now show... Oh! Oh, I wonder if the prey system's active for testing. It probably would be now. Is there anything new? Oh, fishing trainer.
Enubilore Delana. Remember the sun well.
Yes.
Well, you're new.
Keep your wits about you.
Your gold is welcome here. We will have justice.
First look at fishing. Totally was not my plan, by the way. Cooking trader in Tranquillin, if you're wondering. Yeah, yesterday I couldn't get there though, because we were only allowed in the new void zone. Now we're probably allowed to traverse the whole map. It might be time to level a character from 80 all the way up to 90 and see what the natural path feels like. Well, let's look at our fishy fish then. Caught fish appear in the Trusty Fishing Journal. Both the last recommended skill 1. Zulaman, skill 100, Root Lands 225, and then Void Storm, recommend skill 300. Fishing. We can make lures again. We have common fish, uncommon fish, and rare fish. Will there be a minimum level for alt army characters? Is it going to be currently level 80? Well, technically you can pick up, as it stands right now, technically you can pick up professions at level 78. But a lot of the profession tools seem to have a requirement of you being level 81. Which weirdly might be an interesting way for Blizzard to make sure that you at least get that character into the zone and maybe at least one level. I don't know. Maybe it's an early alpha thing, but you can learn midnight professions at 78, but you might be limited to what you can do at that level. You can't start equipping like profession tools and stuff until you're 80, 81. This especially rare and tasty fish is an important ingredient in many Quel'Thas last cooking recipes. Okay, so there's categories once again for each of the different fish. Some which are designed for you to throw back in and get a buff. The irony is they'll still have some sort of monetary value, so you're kind of always crazy for doing that. Trouts, lowers, null void fish. Can earn anomaly fillets and other items. Is fishing for null void fish going to be a way like an active farm? That's funny. Okay. I don't know what I was doing, but it wasn't that.
State your business.
Blacksmithing and jewel crafting materials, tailoring materials. Do these... I picked up the leatherworking one of these the other day. I was wondering if these gave any moxie.
Keep your wits about you.
The dark times will pass. Farewell.
Glory to the Sindor.
No, they wouldn't be able to give any moxie, would they? Because moxie is profession specific. I was just thinking about the fact that you got 300, was it 350 artisan security basically for free?
Our enemies will fall. Farewell.
Maybe they don't give you that anymore either. No, that just gave me cloth. Oh, creating characters, completing this quest, putting those materials in the war bank, and then deleting them is probably the only way to get cloth. I've just realised.
I have one of a kind.
That's something else I also need to check. Is cloth even farmable again properly? Or we need to have a proper look at tailoring. First craft bonuses and weekly craft order quests will get you from 80 to 81 easily. Yeah, they probably will. Yeah, you can usually get a couple of levels just by crafting. What I was hoping to find around here was like some weekly quests or something, but maybe not until I've actually got some professions, I guess.
Yes.
Does anything turn up as like a weekly
Times
quest?
of the essence.
Or is there going to be some level requirement to even those? Nothing popped up on my... Nothing popped up on the map. Let's craft some of these using some of this freebie cloth we got. Give me some silver thread.
I have one of a kind items. Remember the sun well.
This is also something that I think is kind of just like a bit of a frustration. One of the simplifications of tailoring being that they've got rid of unraveling. And more so than anything, the way it looks right now is that one piece of cloth goes into making one bolt. All you do is you add 4 pieces of vendor mat to it, which could not make it more boring. And then said bolts then go into imbued bolts, where you just take 2 bolts and more of the same silver leaf thread into making an imbued bolt. It's way dull, way boring. There's like nothing to it, which once again means it's just a kind of a DOA sort of feels as if it could easily be just like completely dead on arrival. Taylor's the only peeps who can loot cloth again. I've not looted a single piece of cloth on another character whilst playing on the beta, so I'm going to assume that's the case. Although I haven't looked at tailoring in super detail. Enemies in midnight zones can now drop Arcano Weave. Yeah, I'm going to assume that's the same. I'm going to assume it's tailors only for cloth. Which, without thaumaturgy, drastically reduce. I mean, cloth has already been one of the more popular things to actually go out and farm for, since you have to be a tailor in the first place. If it is still that only tailors drop cloth, which it kind of does look like, because the Arcano Weave and the Sunfire Silk you need to spec into to even start finding it. Oh, gain 1% chance to find cloth in midnight zones. Oh, well, yeah, once again, you've got high quality cloth drops more often in midnight zones. Yeah, it feels once again like cloth only drops for tailors. Cloth ended up being relatively expensive, even with Thaumaturgy being able to also produce cloth. Cloth could end up being a lot more expensive if it's only tailors that can farm it. And there's no backup option with Thaumaturgy. And we also know with the loot bug, with the loot changes that came in the War Within, meaning if you abuse a hyperspawn location, they stop dropping stuff. Cloth is considered a material drop, which is likely to be one of the things that is whipped off the loot table. Meaning 2x4 cloth farming may not be a thing. Skinning is different, because skinning is your looting. Skinning is because leather is created differently. You don't loot leather. You process the animal and you receive leather as the reward. It works differently to general loot drops. Does that also count for instance farm? No, because you're resetting the instance, which is resetting the mobs. As for Outer World 2x4 farming, the loot changes. I really need to do a video on this that I can point people to. Student's really the only one that's actually quite publicly spoke about it a lot. But yeah, just being a tailor might be valuable from just cloth perspective. Level up with tailoring just to get cloth, even if you don't want it, sell it. Like, then pick up something else later. Okay, I never actually intended to jump onto tailoring here. I was looking for other things. I was just quickly looking to see if there was any weekly quests or whatever, but I need to make sure I don't get too distracted by squirrels. But boys and girls, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm going to go get me some food, and I'm going to probably do a bit of a write-up on the Discord for enchanting a little bit later. We broke that down in enough detail. I think I've got the ability to put something together for that. I've been slowly but surely putting some notes together for each of the professions. We were doing blacksmithing on stream earlier today. I've slowly but surely been putting some stuff together so that A, if you don't have the alpha, or B, you're not willing to give Blizzard a huge amount of extra money just to buy access to the beta, there's something in the Discord. These will be updated and refreshed closer to the actual launch of Midnight, and they'll just be like free mini guides for each of the professions. So if you're not in the Discord already, hop in. There's a category for Midnight Alpha stuff. You can ask a question, or there's the general sort of pre-Midnight discussion channel where you can chat amongst yourselves. So hop in the Discord if you're not there already. But I'm going to go get me some food, and then I will work on enchanting a little bit later. We'll be back tomorrow, probably. I say probably because there's some IRL stuff going on tomorrow that I need to attend to, and I can't remember what time it is. So there's a question mark next to tomorrow still. But if not, I'll see you on Friday. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.